It's now 35. I see that we're recording, so I'll restate my introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Brick Academy Charter School public hearing. It's 4:35. I see that I have board members McCosey, Dr. Kathy Evans-Brown, Sharon Belton-Common, our board president. I see board member Larry Scott and myself are in attendance. Sharon, at this point, I will turn it over to Miss Ebony Bullock for an introduction and to get the meeting starting. So Miss Bullock, the floor is yours.
And colleagues, I am Ebony Bullock. I work in the Office of Shared Accountability for BPS. Online with me as well is Dr. Yolanda Chisholm, who's the Director of School Review. We also have Ashley Scott, who is our administrative intern, who is going to be scribing the meeting. We have my Chief of Staff, Dr. Darren Brown, and the esteemed board members that Board Member Lou Petrucci listed off for you. This evening, this is the public hearing for Brick Charter Academy, I believe. I may have that mixed up. Please forgive me if I do, your exact name. I do want to let you know that we are being live streamed. You do not see Dr. Yolanda Chisholm, but she will be facilitating the question and answer period towards the end of this. Make sure that you have a nice tight presentation and allow the board to have at least 25 to 30 minutes of questions. And we will have also some comment period from the public. Dr. Brown, do you have anything? Dr. Brown, do you have anything to add?
I absolutely do. Thank you, Ebony. All the public that are watching, if there are comments that you would like to submit or information you would like to submit to the Board of Education or to be included to send to the SUNY Charter Institute or the Board of Regents, please email the board members at bpsboardmembers@buffaloschools.org. Again, BPS board members at buffaloschools.org. And we'll repeat that a few times before we end also. Thank you very much. So we are ready, I believe, at this time for your presentation. Who will be presenting on behalf of Brick?
Hello, Mr. Brown. I'm Antoine Barlow. I'll be leading the presentation team, and we will be moving forward. So I'm going to share my screen.
Awesome.
All right. All right, so here we go. Okay, can everyone see my screen, PowerPoint?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so before we start, I'm going to hand it over to start our official introduction to Yolanda Wood. And Yolanda, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so if you would like to introduce yourself, we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Yolanda Wood. I live in the city of Buffalo with my family, my husband and my 3 children. We live in the city because we choose to live in the city because this is where we grew up and where we want to stay. I am the board chair for Brick Buffalo Academy, and I'm excited about this opportunity to work with our youth here in the city. And I think that this will be a wonderful, wonderful collaboration for us to work together. So thank you so much for it. And I'll turn it back over to Antoine.
Thank you, Yolanda. As I stated before, I'm Antoine Barlow. I'm the Regional Director of Operations for Brick Buffalo Academy. Just a little bit about myself before we do start is I was born and raised on the east side of Buffalo, New York. My family, as many other families growing up, we were really focused where we lived on trying to make it and make a better life for ourselves. I was one of the first ones, or the first one in my family to actually graduate college. And one of the things that stick with me that my father told me a while back, we were basically walking on Delavan and Grider, very close to the house where I grew up in. And he said, if you ever get a chance to pursue an education, and that education can help you it can help be a pathway to a better life, then you take that opportunity and you make sure that you go with it. And when my father told me that, I did go with it, and that's why I got to where I'm at today. But I added something to that as I moved forward, and I said, yes, I'll definitely do those steps that my father told me. But what I want to do is reach back and show others that educational path so that I don't go by myself. I want to take everybody else with me. And that's what really has been my pursuit over the last 15 years. I've been laser focused in my professional life in helping students in the city of Buffalo pursue a high school diploma and also gain admission to college and pursue a college application. So that has been my passion. That's what I've done. And in those times, what I've been able to do is move forward and have a lot of success. And I'm hoping that I can continue to have success going forward. Today, what I'm doing is it's a continuation of my quest as I introduce Brick Buffalo Academy. And you all have to forgive me because something happened with my screen where I can't see anybody, but all I can see is my screen. So Brick Buffalo Academy, our presentation team, I'm going to introduce them now. Our board president, Yolanda Wood, already introduced herself. We have with us Dominique Lee, our chief executive officer of Brick, Christopher Perpich, our chief academic officer, Michelle Holder, our chief program officer, Priscilla Everhart, our chief strategy officer, Ashley Woodson, our senior director of talent acquisition, and Lonnie Floyd, our senior director of special education. Today on our agenda, we're going to go to 6 distinctive areas where we're going to start off with the mission and vision. We're going to talk about our community outreach in Buffalo, the BRIC model, special populations, our BRIC ecosystem, and our teacher retention and recruitment. So first, our mission, the mission and vision. The mission of Brick Buffalo Academy Charter School is to relentlessly knock down all barriers to students' academic success. Our innovative model aligns an excellent education with the necessary family supports to make sure each and every child can succeed. It's our vision that every child will have an unimpeded path to unlocking their limitless potential. We start here with community outreach because with our motto, as you'll see as this presentation unfolds, when we are developing our plan or developing, what we want to do with a school, we know that it all starts within the community. And with that said, starting in January of 2019 and leading up to today, we've engaged in a variety of different methods of community outreach. So our outreach methods have been extensive, as you'll see. 2 of them that I would like to point out is our group informational sessions, which we've held in person and online. We had them in both aspects because, as you know, with the pandemic, it changed a lot of things in 2020. And also our community surveys, which were also handed out in paper throughout the community, but also online. Our outreach methods led to us actually being able to reach a variety of stakeholders. We were able to reach these stakeholders from 2019 all the way up to the present. And 2 of them that I really want to point out is we were really able to talk to parents and also area daycare centers. I think that was very crucial to us finding what's the heartbeat of the community. The outcomes of this community outreach were also extensive. We were able to collect letters of support, actually over 20. And then we have ongoing collaborative meetings established with multiple community leaders and organizations. So through all that, what was revealed through a cross-section of our methods, some of the major points are listed right here. 2 of them that I really want to point out is in our responses, we found that a diversity of teaching staff was desired in the city. Parents indicated they would like to see more minority teachers, and then also more non-academic student supports are needed for students and families, was 2 of the big ones that we found. our Brick Buffalo timeline. So our timeline of how Brick Buffalo and the foundation is going to be built is we're going to be a kindergarten through 5th grade school. Brick Buffalo is going to consist of 2 campuses, a East Campus and a West Campus. The East Campus is set to launch in fall of 2022 with kindergarten and 1st grade. A new kindergarten class will be added each year until we reach our capacity. And the East Campus will be focused to be located in our target area of the east side of Buffalo. The West Campus, similarly, will be starting, but a year later in 2023. A new kindergarten class will be added each year till we reach capacity. And that campus will be located in our other target area of the west side of Buffalo. Now, as we have our mission and we have the community feedback, how do we apply some of that feedback within our school? And that's taken within our BEN model, which I'm going to turn over to Dominique Lee to explain a little bit more about how we actually run the model.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing for us this opportunity to present. As Antoine said, Dominique Lee, I am the founder and CEO of the BRIC Education Network. We started 12 years ago as a traditional public school turnaround partner. So today, I just want to kind of give you an overview of our model. So our model is built upon 3 strong pillars. The first one is a college-going curriculum program. We say college-going because we are not an organization that believes every single child should go to college, but we do believe 100% of our children should be college-ready. And it's at that point in time they can make a decision on where they want to go in their life. The second strong component of our model is our Ubuntu program, in which we have a strong emphasis on character identity. We believe that when you educate and allow for children to have the space to explore their identity as being a Black male, being a woman, being a female, whatever that identity is, they will leave you stronger than where they came with. So it's our responsibility as an organization is to provide that space, especially for our Black and brown children, that allows for them to leave understanding that their identity is an asset to this world. And last but not least is the ecosystem of supports. We are a holistic model. We do not believe that if you just teach 2 + 2, that automatically will solve the education situation. Children come from situations sometimes that seep into our schoolhouse doors, and it's our responsibility as an organization to provide the partnerships and the supports. So when those issues do arise, that we are equipped to support all of our children, every single one of them. And the root of this model comes from our work doing traditional public school turnaround. When you're doing transformation work in a traditional public school setting, and you get the neighborhood kids that all come to you, you have to basically roll up your sleeves and build the skill sets to support all children. And that's where from the belief of who we are as an organization. And I just want to quickly highlight how our model came to light before we go into each subsection of those and talk about how this actually came to light during COVID, which we're all, hopefully in the next couple of months, we're going to be in a different space as a world. But if you go to the next slide, Antoine. So when COVID hit, our model was really equipped to handle it, right? We were quickly able to support all of our students with Chromebooks. We're able to roll out Wi-Fi enabled devices pretty much in a 2-week time span to our students. We're able to launch an online virtual learning platform where parents and students can go to one place to access all the materials. In addition to that, when it came to the ecosystem building those partnerships that I talk about, Nichelle Holder's going to talk about in depth a little bit later, is that of course COVID actually affected our communities more affected by COVID than other communities. And so we were able to do rental assistance. We were able to pass out almost $300,000 of rental assistance, support our families with the financial crisis that they were in. And all of that is kind of where our model was really perfected is during this COVID crisis, because we truly believe that we're part of community. We're not just outside of the community. Our schools, our incubations are part of the community, and that's the work that we do. So COVID really highlighted how our model is designed and supported for community. So with that being said, I'll turn over to Purpose to talk about our curriculum program.
My name is Chris Perpich, and I'm the Chief Academic Officer for BRIC. Dominique called me one day out of the blue 12 years ago and said, hey, I got this idea, and been there ever since. And I've been in Newark working since 2004. So really excited to talk a little bit about our academic model. So BRIC spent the last 10 years developing its academic model, and it has proven results ensuring students are college and career ready, just like Dominique said. But most importantly, our curriculum centers the lives and experiences of the Black and Brown students we serve. And we believe this centering allows our students to not only see themselves and their experiences in their daily work, but it also provides them space to explore and uncover their identity. We develop teachers to not only explicitly teach social and emotional lessons, but we also ensure all teachers develop a classroom culture that's steeped in implicit culturally responsive strategies to support our students' emotional well-being. Because we know that when students aren't safe and feel safe in school, they're not going to learn at the levels that they really deserve. BRIC's high impact teaching and leading practices ensure that our students are independent learners and are set up for college and career success starting in kindergarten. Our teachers and leaders receive weekly coaching and on-the-spot feedback using BRIC's proven development tools codified over the last 10 years. And each year starts with a 2.5-week summer institute for teachers, and the development continues throughout the year during bi-weekly professional development. And BRIC has developed robust tools for collecting not only student data, but also program implementation data. And our use of data empowers students to own their learning and propel themselves forward, but it also allows teachers and leaders to do the same. So our innovative model aligns an excellent education with the necessary family supports to make sure each and every child can succeed. And it's our vision that every child we serve in Buffalo will have that unimpeded path to unlocking their limitless potential. Thanks.
Now we're going to move to talk about our exceptional learners. And for that, I'm going to actually pass it over to our Director of Special Education, Lonnie Floyd.
Hello, I'm Dr. Floyd. I am the Senior Director of Special Education, our Exceptional Learners Program. I came to New Jersey in November of 2019, very attracted and drawn by the mission and vision of the BRIC Network. And there are some words in that mission statement that drew me immediately, ensuring that each and every child has an unimpeded path. And so our model as a network, we are committed to making sure that our special populations receive the level of support and care that they need in order to be successful. And it is exemplified in several ways, some of which I'll highlight for you today. Our curriculum implementation ensures that every student has access to the general education curriculum, and teachers are supported, as well as staff are supported with the appropriate training for providing accommodations and modifications for students to ensure that they have access to that curriculum. As well, we support teachers and staff with professional development to ensure that the implementation, the revision, and monitoring of all IEPs are appropriately maintained. We also have systems of active monitoring to make sure that the accountability and fidelity of IEPs and the educational process is maintained, as well as progress monitoring tools to ensure that students make progress in reaching their IEP goals. We have a full continuum of special education programming, ranging from inclusion to self-contained classroom as needed for students as appropriate needs outlined in their IEPs, as well as we've made a robust investment in developing an ELL curriculum to make sure that all multi-language learners have access to curriculum and supports as needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Lonnie. I'm gonna pass it now to talk about our BRIC ecosystem to Nichelle Holder.
Thank you, Anton, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present. I've been with the organization for 8 years, and now I'm leading this, what we call the BRIC ecosystem. So I just really want to share with you what our leadership team is committed to, and that's working with and alongside the Buffalo Public Schools to support our students and their families, partnering with a team of community stakeholders, and being respectful, responsive, and approachable to families and the community at large by being active listeners and transparent in all of our conversations. We really believe in the strength of community. We want to be good partners. And we really are honored to be able to have the opportunity to work with all the wonderful students and families in Buffalo. Want to just give you a real concrete example of what it means to partner and be good partners. During COVID, there were so many of our families that were devastated by this pandemic. And one of the challenges that we found was transportation during this time. A lot of families were uncomfortable with using public transportation at that time, but they still needed to go to food shopping. They needed to get to their doctor's appointments. And unfortunately, some families had to go to the emergency room. We were able to partner with Lyft, rideshare, and we were able to provide families with a Lyft code so that they can get to all the places they needed to for their families with no cost to the family. It was seamless. We were able to provide them with that code, and they were able to use it to get back and forth to provide the necessary items that they needed for their students, for their children and families. Also during COVID, we launched a COVID tech support line so that families, even if they did not have computers, they were able to text us and share with us what their needs were. And some of the areas that we provided were touchless food delivery. We provided mental health through one of our partners. They were able to meet with our master level social workers. We also helped them navigate through some of those government processes so that they can get their, unemployment if they needed to get any type of social services. So we are here for the community. We're dedicated to the community, and we want to work with them. So that is really just a quick overview of what we call the BRIC ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, Nichelle. And to close this out, we're going to talk about our teacher recruitment and retention. So I'm going to actually pass it over to Ashley to go ahead and give the overview in that aspect.
Thank you, Antoine. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ashley Woodson. I'm the senior director here. I am product of educators. My mother, my grandmother were educators and school administrators, assistant principal, and I too came to Newark drawn to the vision. And so now in front of our students to continue to break down barriers. Just an overview as staff who are dedicated into closing the achievement gap. We take pride in cultivating and paths for our staff while keeping our scholars and families in mind. Partnerships with organizations such as Teach for America and local college universities, organizations to help our recruitment initiatives is very vital to recruitment. College career fairs and other organizations to diversify. We have a process that eliminates bias and is equitable across board. Now, we really take pride in our recruitment initiatives, also enjoy coaching and developing our staff internally by creating a career ladder for their professional goals. Of keeping 85% of effective staff within our network. And to highlight 2019 year, our Achieve Startup Campus located in Newark, New Jersey had 80% network, and one of our transformational campuses also located in Newark, staff network. And you can go to the next slide, Anton. Thank you. 5% of our teachers are teachers of color. So we heard as about folks who want us to have minority teachers. We really take pride in putting especially with there being a national teacher shortage and recruit and retain teachers of something we are. So I just wanted to highlight that as well.
Okay. So with that, it concludes the presentation portion from Brick. Thank you very much. And I'm trying to get my screen back. All right.
Lou, you're on mute.
Okay, Mr. Pucciucci, I'll start seeing which board members have questions. So at this time, board members, if you raise your hand, or we can start. I see board member Larry Scott has the first question. Mr. Scott, go ahead.
Everyone, thank you for your presentation. I have several questions. My first pertaining to special education. As an educator that works with students with disabilities, this is a priority of mine. I want to know more about your continuum of providing services and programming for all students with disabilities. In particular, the reference to providing self-contained placements. What type of self-contained placements would you be providing? What kind of self-contained placements do any of your other schools that you manage provide?
Great question. So we currently provide the Learning and Language Disabled Self-Contained Program. However, within those programs, students who have behavioral challenges on occasion are able to function within those programs with little disruption. We also go through a very rigorous system of making sure that students get what they need in terms of a behavior intervention plan to avoid another placement outside of our network. So to ensure that we keep students in our self-contained program with as much as possible, we make sure that we support them with behavior intervention plans, with crisis plans, making sure that we work with both parents and outside providers, making sure the students can be successful within the academic program of a self-contained classroom.
So what would be the teacher to student ratio in those classrooms and in the classrooms in your other schools that are self-contained?
I'm sorry, generally 1 to 12, of course, with a paraprofessional in addition to that teacher. So they're in there with that student. In all of our self-contained classrooms that currently exist, we can maintain that ratio of 1 to 12 within the Learning and Language Disabled classroom with a paraprofessional. In one classroom, we currently have 2 paraprofessionals to support the teacher because of the virtual learning format, but we have within the 1 to 12 ratio.
And how many of those 12 to 1s do you currently have in your other schools that you manage?
Say that one more time. I want to make sure I understand your question.
How many 12 to 1 plus A, it sounded like you were describing, classrooms do you have in your other schools that you manage?
We don't currently have other schools. We might have students in other placements, but we don't have other schools other than those 2 campuses. If I understand your question.
Yep. So we're currently in Marion P. Thomas, the charter school we manage, has 2 self-contained classes. We historically, in our partnership with traditional public schools, developed and managed a K-8 behavioral disabilities continuum in one of our campuses. And we actually sought out bringing a full continuum into the building. And Dominique, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was upwards of 100 to 115 students within that program. And we worked diligently to ensure those students received rigorous instruction, the behavioral interventions that they needed, and were exited once they, were ready to be back in mainstream.
Can you point me to, in your application, can you point me to where it includes self-contained programming? Because I saw it in your presentation, but I wasn't able to locate it in the application. And as you're searching for it, I'll move to my next question. It looks like your proposal was denied twice by SUNY in 2018 and 2019. That was slated for South Bronx. I'm also wondering about the current status of your management of Marion P Charter School, I believe it is. Are you still currently managing that? Are you still managing a CMO of that school?
Yes, our contract for Marion P is slated to for a 2-year contract, and that is slated to end on June 30th. The board has made a resolution that they would like to alter the contract, so we will be entering contract negotiations probably in another 30 or 45 days.
Okay, so what about they were recently voted to end the contract or let the contract expire June 30th. Has something changed since then?
No, so at that board meeting, the contracts, they said that they would like to end the current contract and enter negotiations for what the new one will look like.
Is it guaranteed that you will continue as the managing organization?
It is not guaranteed.
Okay. And so because you reference in your application your affiliation with this charter school, will that termination of that contract or expiration of that, potentially the contract ending and not being renewed, will that be conveyed to the SUNY Charter School Institute?
Yes, that will be conveyed.
Okay. Now, I noticed in looking at your staffing, actually in your application as a whole, you really emphasize the high level of poverty in Buffalo, which is certainly a major, major challenge for us. But as I read through your application, there seemed to be a lot of contradiction in addressing that need of poverty. And for example, when I see for one school that you're going to have 11.5 administrative personnel, with costing I saw $901,000 total. That for under 500 students total when you get to full capacity. My son's school, School 81, right here around the corner from me, 900 students, and they have 5 staff, about 5 staff in administration. So that to me is just, it's hard for me to look at that and say that this is about students, that the investment and commitment is about students, when a lot of money and staff it's top heavy with administrators.
Right. I think that's a great question, Board Member Scott, and I think that's a great observation. I think it kind of points to classifications of positions, so I wouldn't just look at this administration top heavy. I think exactly to your point, when you're dealing with students who might need additional supports and additional structures, it requires a different model. So, for example, instead of us having just one dean of curriculum or one principal to manage 30 or 40 teachers, that principal can never, ever get to the point of providing those individual supports to the teachers on their docket, right? So for us, we believe that a principal or whoever manages teachers should only have a ratio of 1 to 15. Similar to social workers, one social worker for a building of 600 or 500, that's just too much, right? So we provide additional supports than that. So I think exactly to the point that you're bringing up, which is why we invest heavily more in support services and administrative support, is because of the environment that we serve our buildings, and that has yielded the results in which, you know, we have the highest SGPs in the state. It's because we have invested in those other categories and put 2 teachers like in a classroom in kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade. So I think exactly to your point, like, this is why we need different models.
To be clear, though, my concern isn't with investing in teachers, in social workers, other support staff to work with students. It's the administrative personnel that, to me, is inequitable to what we have in our public schools here, and probably many of our charter schools in Buffalo.
Well, I think that I understand that inequity, but coming from someone who managed traditional public schools, I saw that inequity myself. in which I had to fight every single year to provide additional supports in my classroom. So I don't think that's inequity on behalf of the charter or public. I think there's inequity of the choices that we make when it comes to allocation of dollars. So for us, we have made a choice as an organization to invest in certain categories. When I was in the district did not. So I think that inequity is not because it's charter versus charter, it's just the choices that we make.
So in looking at the revenue over the 5 years, it looks like there would be for both schools around a cumulative 20 to 30 million it would cost Buffalo Public Schools to pay the tuition and all the other expenses for your 2 charter schools. That we are facing, major challenges with our budget, and wondering what we have obviously a population that's high in poverty, and taking that amount of money out of our system away from our kids, how is that addressing those children that are living in poverty? And along with this, most significantly, it looks like the charter management organization over the 5 years for one school, 3.5 million will go directly to that charter management organization, will leave this community, will leave that even your charter school that's educating those children. And that's for one school. So it looks like about 7 million for both schools will leave the city and our children, to our tax dollars, to go directly to that charter management organization, which there's almost none of those affiliated with any of our other local charters here in Buffalo. So all that money, leaving our area, how does that kind of fit with addressing this high need of poverty in our area?
Yeah, so I think to your first point, money leaving the district, I believe that we're part of the community, and I think all kids are part of a system. And that system as a whole, no matter if it's traditional public school, private school, or charter school, we are responsible for educating all students no matter what, which is why we are part of the community, which is why we look forward to partnering with the district, where we can share professional developments, economy of scale, and do creative things together. So I think that's your first point, which is I don't look in the bifurcation of like this system versus that system. I look at, we as a community, there's around 45 to 50,000 kids. We are all responsible for ensuring that each one of them gets a quality education. I think to your second point, which is money leaving the community, I don't think that's probably how you should characterize it, because as you mentioned, Antoine is a person of the community and his salary comes from that, right? And in addition to that, the economies of scale. So instead of us having one accountant for each of our buildings, right? When we have a combined, I can share that accountant across all our networks. So our administrative cost is actually much cheaper than what you might see from other charter schools in terms of how much you spend on the back office. My goal is always that back office should never be more than 10 to 15% to operate a school, no matter where they are in our network, which means 85 to 90% of the dollars goes directly towards the instructional program. So that's kind of how we structured our thing. So I wouldn't say it leaves the community, because many of the people that would be in that support regional office are from the community, will work in the community. That's why we have that regional office. And to the point that I want to ensure that we always have economies of scale around this, we never spend more than 15% on our back office. We ensure that most of the money goes directly to the instructional programming.
So your administrators are not itemized on a separate line, their salaries?
The administrator, are you talking about the kind of regional office, or are you talking about the direct school administrator?
Both.
The direct school administrator is on the school budget. That regional office individuals are part of a mixture between some from the school and some from the network office.
And how are their salaries itemized in your budget?
The principals are on there, some of the regional people are on there, but then some of the other regional people are going to be on the CMO budget.
So the 3.5 million, part of that covers, I think you said Antoine's salary?
I have to.
Antoine's salary separate from that.
I think it's separate. I think Antoine's is separate from that, but I have to double check.
So it would be leaving Buffalo.
Yeah.
All that money then is leaving Buffalo to go directly to that charter management organization that is not located here in Buffalo. What, on that note, what is the name of the charter management organization that will manage this charter school, these two charter schools?
That would be the Brick Education Network.
It is Brick Education Network.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Miss Yolanda, I didn't hear your last name. I see your first name there. You mentioned that you're from Western New York. Who else is from Western New York, or I should say currently living in Western New York in the Buffalo area?
Live here in Buffalo. Yolanda Wood.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wood. And what is your understanding of the education bargain?
You're asking me? I'm sorry.
Any of you?
Oh.
When you say education bargain, what's that?
So that is really the foundation that Buffalo Public Schools operates on right now. There are 6 planks that really generate how we invest our money, the programming from elementary on up to secondary. That really, it was a vision and program, a foundation that began when Dr. Cash started here as superintendent. I'm gonna just close up here, I think, with just a couple more questions. What is, especially, I think, Mr. Lee, your affiliation with the Friends of Marion P. Thomas Charter School?
I don't have any affiliation with Friends of Marion P. Thomas Charter School.
Did you have a previous relationship at all?
No, I've never had that. I don't know where that's coming from.
Okay.
I think it's okay, but I think also you need to kind of disclose where you're coming from with that.
Well, I know you have affiliation with, you've managed Marion P. Thomas Charter School.
That's
and
correct.
I wondered if there was any affiliation with Friends of Marion P. Thomas Charter School.
No, that is not.
So that's separate from your charter management organization.
That is correct.
Okay. I think that is all for me. Thank you.
So can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Nothing like being a little tech person on the fly. At this point, we have 2 other hands raised. I see that Dr. Will Carestas would like to ask a question. So at this point, I'd like to turn over to Dr. Carestas. Dr. Carestas, the floor is yours.
Petrucci, and thank you to the guests for joining us today and providing your presentation. Really appreciate it. I had the opportunity to read the majority of your application, and I think it's almost 2,400 pages. So it was very intense, and but I noticed that, by way of example, when you describe how you're going to recruit English as new language learners to your school, you only mention Spanish-speaking students. Do you know how many languages in our city are considered to be the top languages beyond English and Spanish?
Sorry, am I on mute? I lost.
We can hear you, Mr. Lee. We can hear you.
I'm sorry. Yes, I forgot the number off the top of my head, but it is not a small number because there is a
62, Dominique? I think it's 62. Is that correct?
Well,
60, 62?
Yeah, it's not a small number. I forgot.
Yeah, the top languages, and I'm referencing just in relation to your recruiting strategy and the translations you would provide for top languages. There are 10 that we translate in addition to English, providing in English and translating in Spanish. And do you know what the top 2 languages are besides English and Spanish that we translate in?
one of them is Chinese?
No. The top two languages are Arabic and Karen. There are growing new American populations really in all parts of the city, all four quadrants of our city. It's no longer a phenomenon that is distinct to one side of Buffalo or the other. But the district, takes very seriously that obligation to take the deep dive into the cultures that are coming to our great city and are embracing Buffalo and want to be a part of our school community. So I consider those very important questions and that are lacking in your application. I have just one more question because I know board members are waiting. So the charter school statute assumes that the approval of charter schools is based on an unmet need. And I want to kind of focus on your FAPE commitments that you make in your application. Could you tell the board how your strategy for meeting your FAPE obligations will be different than what the Buffalo Public Schools is already doing?
Well, can I, before we go there, Dr. Christmas, I just want to address the ALA learners. I'm going to be leading up our recruitment when it comes to a lot of the families, and just my experience that I've had in some of the projects that I worked on in conjunction with the Buffalo Public Schools is I've been able to recruit, and I have extensive experience on the west side of Buffalo working with students, and I've seen the Buffalo Public Schools do a great job in translation, and I've worked with the Buffalo Public Schools in translation along with Journeys In to make sure that the work that I've done was translated in the necessary languages, and I looking forward to in our recruitment efforts to making sure that path stays for our recruitment on the west side of Buffalo, but like you said, the east side, North Buffalo, and also South Buffalo, because I do agree with you. The ELA learners and first generation families are all over the city right now and very aware of that, and a lot of experience and projects that I worked on, and also in conjunction with the Buffalo Public Schools.
So can anyone answer the other question I had about what will be different about how you intend to fulfill your FAPE obligations to students compared to how the Buffalo Public Schools is doing that? And the reason that question is important is because, as I had stated earlier, the premise of the charter school statute in New York State is that the approval for your application will satisfy an unmet need in the traditional public school district.
Yeah. So FAPE, is that free or reduced lunch? What is that terminology?
FAPE is free, appropriate public education. It's the legal right of students with disabilities across the country. And very specific rights are stipulated under FAPE. You have a page on it or a paragraph on it in your application.
So I want to make sure that you're asking how will we do it differently than Buffalo? Is that your question?
Well, and specifically, how will it be more effective, and how will you be satisfying an unmet need in the city of Buffalo?
Gotcha. So in terms of our program, we offer students a rigorous curriculum. And so our students who have special needs, specifically those who have learning disabilities, have access to the same general education curriculum as our general education students. However, the teachers of those students who are provided professional development not only in special education, but in how to provide those accommodations and modifications around the general education curriculum at the same rigor as general education students are receiving. So our teachers carry the bulk of that load, and then when they're providing that to students, they give students the opportunity through rigorous progress monitoring of adjusting the curriculum to make sure the students meet their academic needs or meet their academic goals as outlined on their IEPs. So it's very rigorous turnaround. So we're adjusting progress monitoring along the way to make sure students are keeping fairly in lockstep with our general education students, However, when there's more intensive needs, they're separated in order to get those needs mitigated and brought back to that curriculum at the same pace.
Thank you, Yolanda. Thanks.
No problem.
Will, do you have any other questions, or does
No,
that conclude?
thank you. I'm finished. Thanks.
All right. Next up, we have Terrence Hurd. Terrence, at-large member Hurd, the floor is yours, followed by Ms. McCosey.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your presentation this afternoon. And I'm always happy to see a fellow graduate of Buffalo Public Schools, you know, trying to do good things in the neighborhood. I just have a couple of questions. Most of the questions were answered or asked by board member Larry Scott and Will Caress. Only two questions. I noticed I went to your website. I noticed on the website you already have Buffalo listed as coming soon. So I see that you're very ambitious and proactive, you know, in your wording, and I'm already putting that on your website. But my question is, your fifth graders, when they graduate from your program, where do they go to? What type of schools do they generally go to?
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Are you referring to our fifth graders in Newark?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, we are actually a pre-K-12 continuum.
Pre-K-12.
So they,
Okay.
yeah, we're K-12 continuum.
Okay, so your 12th graders, well, so you're staying, okay. I just read on your website, it seems something different that it said about the K-5. The last question would be, your everything was pretty much answered. So I do like the holistic view that you have, you know, into education, and I guess that'll be it. Everything has already been answered already, so I'm not just going to continue going back and forth with it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Next up, I have West District Representative Jen McCosey. Jen, the floor is yours.
So, and thank you for your presentation. I just have just a couple of comments based off of the remarks and the questions that have already been asked, because I did have similar questions. Number one, I feel that, you know, the education bargain is such a staple in what the Buffalo Public Schools have been doing and how we've been operating over the last 5 to 6 years, that it just struck me as I'm a little bewildered as to how that wasn't even something that you were aware of coming to the Buffalo Board of Education in order to be able to, you know, seek our approval for this. So I just wanted to state that, because that's how we operate. You know, it's not just, you know, a motto. It's literally from our structure to how we do things, to how we hire, to how we manage our budgets. It's all based around that bargain. So I suggest you really look into that big time on how, you know, how it fits with what you're trying to do. Number two, based off of the question that Mr. Caressy's asked, the difference, I guess we really want to hone in on what is it that you're really supplying and bringing to the table that we don't already have in place, that's a clear-cut, different dimension from what Buffalo is doing. So our connections with Say Yes and our partnerships and all of what we're bringing to the table. I'm still looking for like that key, you know, addressing poverty. I am the West District representative, and it threw me for a loop that, you know, there's recruiting efforts happening and no one has reached out to me at all around the different schools and places that we can possibly connect, right? So know that my, you know, I'll send you my information, but we have many programs, and definitely our populations are now, they're not just in the West Side. And we stated before, it's all 4 quadrants, and anyone from Western New York and Buffalo knows that, you know, we're struggling ourselves to make sure we're resourced across this city. So if you're bringing this to the table and we're supposed to be working in tangent with each other, I want to see a connection as opposed to we can do this and you guys do this. So I just want to be very clear and be very real with my comments, and I hope you respect that. Thank you very much.
Yes, Ms. McCosey, thank you very much for your comments. I do want to say that, you know, definitely we can definitely meet, and I would love to hear more about, you know, what's going on in the district that I might not know as of right now. But if we go back to our timeline, just to go back really quick, our East campus is supposed to open up in the fall of 2022. That being said, I've been really focusing on working with a lot of work to get that off the ground in 2020. But as 2021 has rolled around, seeing that the West Campus opens in fall of 2023, meeting you and also meeting some of the other partners that I already have on the West Side has been a focus. So I do appreciate those comments, and I do look forward to meeting you and trying to make sure that we move forward with BRIC. Just from a standpoint of being someone that's been in Buffalo, and just to give you a little background is that, I talked about successes that I've had in programs. I've worked with students on the East Side and West Side of Buffalo, and it's specifically ELA learners, taking them from, level one, from being a freshman all the way, helping them all the way to graduating with graduate degrees. So I've worked closely with families and done that all around the city. And one thing that I see being from Buffalo and seeing with BRIC is our commitment to diversity of staff, and also our commitment to infusing the community in everything that we do. I know that Dominic Lee started his organization, and he's someone that when I came to be a partner with BRIC, that I really saw the mission that he was on, and I really took to it. Being someone from the East Side of Buffalo and worked on the West Side of Buffalo all my life with ELL families, it was something that I saw that was different. And the difference is that there's a mixture of education and community, and trying to build up the community that I hadn't seen in a school, where I've seen community organizations that are standalone community organizations. I've seen public and charter schools that are great academic institutions, but to see an institution that is able to weave those together in a way that makes it very advantageous for the community, especially a community that's in need, like the community where we live in the community of Buffalo, New York, in the highest need areas, is something that I think would be special to bring here. And that's just coming from an intrinsic side, that I have for the city. I wouldn't, my number one goal all the time is the students of Buffalo. And
the time, Lou, we're running into time. Please, let's try to, I'm not being disrespectful, but I have a meeting to conduct and we have to move forward.
Thank you, Board President. And we do have some questions from the audience. I have questions. Are we done, Mr. Barlow?
So board members, let's go on record to say that we will allow this meeting to continue some additional minutes in order to resolve this for our viewing audience so that they can address their questions. But at no time was this meeting ever supposed to go into board time. So in the future, what I suggest staff to do is to put it back a half an hour, started at 4 o'clock. Those board members who can be here, but we cannot go into our board time in regards to allowing a charter school to have prime time during the time that we are to be conducting business. I have a major problem with that. Okay, so let's move forward. Let's wrap it up. Please ask your listening audience or the questions to be as brief as possible. Answers are limited to 1 to 2 minutes at the most.
Thank you. Thank you, Board President Cotman. I have 2 questions, and I will turn, my questions are brief. I will turn it over then to the audience. Mr. Harlow, like Mr. Hurd, and Board President Cotman and Dr. Kathy Evans Brown, who's the Vice President, we're all proud graduates of the Buffalo Public Schools, and we try our best to give back as well every chance we get. At this point, I have 2 quick questions. Is your board paid or volunteer?
Volunteer.
Thank you very much. The other question I have is I'm very, it's great that you have such a high percentage of teachers of color. I know that the district, it's one of the goals that we have not been able to achieve numbers anywhere near that number. I know that most of our charters are in the single digits. I know that we have historically recruited at historically Black colleges and universities. We've gone to Puerto Rico. We've done a lot of different things. So briefly, in brevity, can you explain how you're able to do this?
Are they certified?
Yeah, so when I attended, graduated a historically Black college, so I have a lot of networks that I tap into. I have my do relocation bonuses as well as incentives and hard
think you're breaking up, Ashley. Or is it-
Can you hear me?
In and out.
Yeah, you keep going in and out.
Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't know what's going on with my internet. We have of our works and organizations that we still can't hear me.
Very, very spotty. But thank you.
Apologize.
At this, thank you. I appreciate it.
If we submit that answer in writing to Mr. Petrucci and to the board, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Braun. I just received a quick text that says, according to your application, that the board members received $5,000 in compensation for their efforts.
No, they do not receive any money.
Okay.
I think that's illegal in the state of New Jersey, correct?
Yeah, but
New York. New York. Sorry, New York. It's paid volunteer board. Volunteer boarders. Yeah.
There are paid boards in New York State. That's why we ask. Just so
I think paid anything, just so we're clear. So that's on the record. Yolanda Wood hasn't received anything.
Okay.
It's
Thank you, Yolanda.
voluntary.
That's very good of your Board President Kottman. I will turn the floor over to you quickly, and then I'm going to get to the two members of the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you let our public go first, and I'll end it so that we can move on? So let our public go first, please.
With pleasure. Dr. Chisholm, I understand you have some questions from the general public. I turn the floor over to you at this point.
Thank you, Board Member Petrucci. Just one question from the stream live for the school. In your initial engagement with parents in the community, have you experienced an interest in a new school option?
Yes. So my engagement with parents have been, as I said, it's been in person through canvassing, through different community organizations, and then also it's been online in the pandemic where I've been do surveys, and in those times, along with a parent focus group, we did receive interest in another school option based off of the model that was presented to them, that was presented today. Interest in a model of that nature coming to Buffalo.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Is that it, Dr. Chisholm? Thank you. I see the head shaking. That's fine. Yes. Board President Belton Kottman, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So why did you target the East Side?
Yes. So, one of the things when I started to work with Dominique, he told me about the model of Buffalo or of Brick, and we talked about it extensively. And I was from the east side of Buffalo. I knew it intimately, and I said the east side and west side were definitely, from a statistical standpoint, areas of the city that would definitely benefit from the model that we have. And I thought that starting with the east side, knowing that we weren't going to open up both locations at the same time, would be conducive to start with.
Okay. You are aware that we are oversaturated with charters in this district at this point, right? When I say oversaturated, what I'm saying is that the current charters have not been able to max their enrollments out, most of them. You do realize that, right? Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to make sure of that statement. I appreciate your efforts and your tenacity. I imagine because you feel that you have applied to SUNY that you have an automatic issue. This is why you're taking for granted that you will be in the Buffalo area, and you have posted it on your website. Because for the record, I needed to reflect that SUNY has a situation, a three-man board that are making decisions for millions of children throughout this state. And the Big Five has gone on record with the state as well as the federal government that this abuse has to stop, that SUNY should not have the authority to interfere with the education of any students age grades K through 12, that their primary focus should be on doing the postgraduate programs in their institutions. And so I'm sure you feel that you have a good fix with SUNY, because that's what SUNY is known to do, approve every charter that goes before it. All right, but meanwhile, back at the ranch.
Board member comment. I can't speak about the other things that you just spoke about, but I don't think we have a guarantee for this. I think.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, as Mr. Scott
Because when
pointed
you
out.
put it on your website, it says that you do.
No,
that there's a possibility that you do. Yeah.
Board member Cotman, I think, as Mr. Scott pointed out, we have applied before, was denied. And I think it also, one of the things that we try to do anytime we work with any community is that you need to make sure that you have the necessary infrastructure prior to opening any school.
Okay, so who have you worked with? Who have you worked with in our city?
Antoine is one, Yolanda is one, an entire board of Buffalo and other individuals and communities. So it requires.
Other than your board, who particularly in Buffalo have you been working with?
I just mentioned Antoine.
Other than Antoine, you're talking about Antoine, this gentleman, Barlou, the gentleman here, another Antoine.
Yeah, are you referring to who have we reached out to or
right.
who have we...
You said that you're working with people in our community.
Yeah, so we're working, for example, in the aspect of our facility, working with Nidus Development, as our developer, which is a minority-led development firm. We're talking to them. We've had conversations with various organizations in the community, including the Buffalo Urban League, Young Black Professionals of Western New York. And I do have the list here just so I don't go off of what we're saying, but Service Collaborative, Leadership Buffalo, University of Buffalo, also the Buffalo Federation of Neighborhood Communities, various daycares we've talked to and talked to them about our model and also talk about collaborating maybe in the future, from My Precious Angels to name a few. I can name others.
No, you're good. You're good. I just wanted to see, because it's curious that you have not talked to the elected officials of this board in regards to this until today. And so when we are elected by the people of this city to sit on this board, and we have not had a conversation with you, so that's the reason for asking that question. Okay, and I just wanted to point that out, that you have a African-American superintendent and an African-American board president. You are coming to us as an African-American school, and you did not think enough to speak to these two people in regards to your plans for our city. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't want to use any more time. I appreciate
I do want the rec to reflect. We have to meet with the district, and I want to be very straightforward with that. And so we will love it to engage a conversation with the superintendent.
I'm sure you're going to have to before it's over.
Because as you mentioned, we are all African-American led leaders, and I believe in working together.
But some of us are elected leaders that were not respected in the process, and that's where I'm going with you. Okay, and I'm not, and if anyone knows me, they know that Sharon Kaufman does not bite her tongue. Okay, I'm straightforward about these things, and I just want you to be clear with that. Okay, you have four African-Americans sitting here, plus the superintendent. We have all sorts of African-American administrators who are Buffalo born and raised, who are moving our district forward. Dr. Fatima Morrell, Dr. Ramona Reynolds, Dr. Tanya Williams, Dr. Darren Brown Hall. So we're familiar with African-Americans and leaders. What I'm trying to get you to understand is that you're coming into our town, you want to propose a new idea, and you didn't think enough of us to do it. I'm disappointed. But anyway.
I just want to say that as far as meeting, we definitely would like to meet with you, Councilman, or excuse me, Board Member Cotman. But I think also in the last year of 2020, when I started to do community outreach, and we started as a organization to do community outreach, and when the advent of the pandemic came about, with everyone's schedules, it was kind of off, and we definitely have wanted to reach out. And I was hoping that now that we've been able to talk, that we can reach out in the future. But I know 2020 was a year of the pandemic that really allowed for a lot of communication to be slowed down.
You know what? I understand 2020, but I understand.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Excuse me, Terrence.
This is Terrence speaking. Just in defense for Antoine Barlow, I didn't speak with the board or with Dominique Lee, but I did receive a call from Antoine Barlow in the previous week, and we did speak for a length of time.
Previous week, the week before coming before the board?
That's
correct.
Thank
you, Mr. Hurd, for sharing that with the board. Back to what I wanted to say. There's a lot of things that happen with COVID. One of the best things that happened is I've been able to have multiple meetings and not move around. And so my days are filled, and I've had a lot of meetings, more meetings than I've ever had, and met with more people than I ever had in a short period of time. So when it comes to connecting with people, one of the things that COVID did do for us was to improve communications for most of us who are actively involved. I thank you, young man, for your presentation. I thank the other your other supporters, etc. I think you need to learn from this moving forward, that when you start moving forward, that you start addressing the people who are in the positions elected by the people first and foremost. I would recommend that.
So,
Okay.
Board President Cotman, so I'm going to reach out to you, and Antoine's going to reach out to you next week. Can we set up a meeting in the next 2 weeks?
We'll see about when my schedule will permit. At this point, I was just trying to arrange a series of things since I've been on this phone, and it looks like every day is lining up. But whenever we can meet, we will talk. But if that's what you require, at this late date, I think the water is already over the dam. I think you've already put everything in place. Having a meeting with me is only going to be is going to do what at this point? Do you understand what I'm saying? You've already presented yourself, and you already have it on your website to come to Buffalo. You've already gone to the state in regards to that. So we can talk, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be a formality. All right?
It won't be a formality, Board President. It would be for you to give us your wisdom on things.
It will be a formality at that point. It would be, because prior to that, it would not have been. Okay? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. At this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Bullock to close out the meeting. Ms. Bullock, the floor is yours.
So if I may first, Mr. Petrucci, I want to remind the public, if you have any follow-up questions or information to get to the board, please email it to bpsboardmembers@buffaloschools.org. bpsboardmembers@buffaloschools.org. There were a couple of other questions from the public that came in that we could not get answered, so we will forward them to you, Antoine, so we can get those answered for the public, and we can include it. We have to send to the SUNY Charter School Institute. But I thank you all for attending, for your presentation, and for answering our questions this evening. If there are any additional questions, we will get them to you for a quick response, so we can include that in what we have to send to the SUNY Charter Institute. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Brown, close us out, please. BRIC folks, please remember to respond in writing to Dr. Chisholm with the information on how you're recruiting specifically teachers of color. And again, you're sending that to Dr. Chisholm. She will pass it through Dr. Brown Hall and to the board. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.